We're good? Okay, excellent. We're live. Welcome, everybody, to the Planning Commission for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Welcome, everybody that's here tonight, as well as on Zoom. Thank you to staff for putting together all of these exhibits for us and getting everything ready. We will begin this with the Pledge of Allegiance by Curtis Whitehead.
All rise, please. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear Heavenly Father, we humbly bow our head this evening as we meet as community and to discuss changes and growth and opportunities and some public input at this Planning Commission meeting. We pray at this time that Thou wouldst accompany us as we make decisions, make recommendations, hear input, that we'll be able to hear and understand and make decisions that are best fit for the community and this surrounding area. We're grateful for Santa Clara and the opportunity and blessing it is to live here. Grateful for the families and our neighbors that strive hard to keep this community the way that it has been and the hometown feeling that we have. Continue to bless us to make decisions that keep this hometown feeling and this small, tight-knit community the way it needs to be, while at the same time understanding the importance of growth and the direction the city is trying to head at this time. Again, we're grateful for this community in which we live, and we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Curtis. Okay. Do we have any communication from the general citizens that is not on the agenda? Is it? Are you asking me about which form are we talking about? Are you asking about? No, you're fine. Okay. Then we will just move on. We're going to jump down just a little bit before the public hearing and on the general business on the agenda to number 2 and look at the preliminary plat for Solus at Santa Clara, just so that we can get that out of the way and then those guys can go on about their day. So is this you, Bob, or is Corey gonna? Okay.
So yes, this is a request for preliminary plat approval for Solus subdivision with 128 single-family lots and 3 to 5 phases. The Tuacahn Wash runs through the property and provides open space and also provides a paved trail along the west side of the wash. Lots are proposed along both sides of the wash. The soils report prepared by AGC states that the property is suitable for residential development. City staff has requested that secondary water irrigation lines be installed within the subdivision to allow for use of secondary irrigation water to be used for the landscape areas. Traffic, the access will come from multiple streets, including Northtown Road from Rachel Drive, proposed Affirmation Drive. It's a 60-foot right-of-way, which will be east-west street connecting Rachel Drive and Red Mountain Drive, which borders the subdivision on the east side. Christelle, could you pull up the Solus? Right-of-way has been reserved for the future extension of Red Mountain Drive and Hamlin Parkway as shown on the preliminary plat. Hold on, get a pointer. My bearings here. So this is Rachel Drive right here at the very bottom. I can't see if, oh, my pointer just died. Um,
You can move.
Phase one. The new east-west road going over the Red Mountain at the bottom comes off of Rachel that I described. Staff has requested the developer improve with curb gutter and sidewalk on approximately half the width of Red Mountain Drive along the subdivision's frontage. A traffic impact study has been completed by Avenue Consultants, a local traffic engineer firm. It's determined that the traffic signal at the intersection of Affirmation Drive and Rachel Drive is not required as part of the proposed subdivision. Open space and the Tuacahn Wash. The Tuacahn Wash contributaries were consolidated some years ago into a main wash channel, which runs somewhat to the east of the formed braided wash. Erosion protection, rock riprap has been placed along the wash under a previous grading permit. Mr. Jared Bates with a PE with Rosenberg and Associates previously provided both a letter and a map explanation and consolidation of the wash over the past decade. The applicant proposes to preserve and enhance the Tuacahn Wash 100-year floodplain by constructing a trail on the east side of the wash. FEMA's 100-year floodplain boundary is an objective standard for preserving river and wash areas. The applicant plans to keep the 100-year floodplain area as permanent open space. No development is proposed within the 100-year floodplain of the Tuacahn Wash. The road crossing of the wash will use a triple barrel box culvert as proposed in the city's transportation master plan. Lot sizes range from 7,680 square feet to 18,405 square feet. The proposed density for the single family lot area is 0.1 lots an acre with a 2.0 acre floodway area excluded. Privacy walls on subdivision perimeter, solid block walls 6 foot high are proposed around the perimeter of the project where double frontage lots are proposed. The privacy wall will be placed along Rachel Drive, Red Mountain Drive, Hamlin Parkway, and Affirmation Drive. A 10-foot wide landscape strip will be installed along the east side of the privacy wall as per city code. An HOA will be established to maintain the common areas, landscape strips, also standard city street lighting will be installed per city code throughout the subdivision. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat, noting that certain issues need to be resolved prior to submitting the final plat. There be any questions on this?
changed.
I don't think so. Are they going to realign that sewer in phase one, the old sewer?
Yes,
can see it
they
in
will, in phase one, the old sewer to the east of Belisol sort of zigzags through there and they'll
Yeah.
realign that in the roadway.
Okay.
With the roadway, you say?
With the
Yeah.
roadway. It'll be in the roadway, yes. And
That's-
then my understanding is they'll start with phase one. Then they'll probably drop down to the townhomes to the south. And then they'll do the phase two and install a bridge. And then work through the phases that to the north.
Okay.
I just had a question of clarification. I may have misheard, but it sounded like you said the pathway would be on the east side. Looks like it's on the west side.
It's on the west side.
Okay.
That's not a change, right? It's on the west.
Yeah, whatever it's showing on the path,
Okay.
on the
Should be the
preliminary
west.
path there.
It's on
West
the
side.
Yeah, it's on the west side of the wash, but the
Okay.
east side of the
Phase
the
one.
homes in phase one. Nothing's changed since the last time I saw it.
Okay. No other questions? I don't think so.
I don't have any.
All right,
Need a motion?
let's do it.
I make a motion that we approve the Solis subdivision as shown in this preliminary plat, as shown and presented by the staff today, with no conditions.
Might want to adjust your motion to recommend to the council.
Recommend to the council. Yeah, we got to get that verbiage. Fix that, Selena, will you please?
I
Okay.
second.
All right, I've got a first from Mark and a second from Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes on.
Thank you.
Okay. Then let's go on the working agenda to the public hearing. To receive public input on a proposed zone change request from residential R110 and agriculture to planned development residential for a proposed living facility on the 5.43 acres generally located east of Gates Lane and south of Santa Clara Drive. We've had some questions as to why we're seeing this again. And we've got 6 items that were brought before us last month that represent a substantial change to the project. And that is why the petition has been brought back. Those 6 items are instead of 2 large buildings, we now have 6 smaller scaled buildings to feel more residential and fit better in the proposed site. This not only makes the project feel smaller, but it also helps in being able to adapt to better distancing and safeguarding if needed as we navigate pandemic situations. Number 2, included elevations that were missing in the previous submittal. Number 3, included the lighting plan that was also missed in the previous submittal. Number 4, included the walkways and sidewalks and pedestrian corridors to understand foot traffic flows. 5, had a substantial change in local support for the project. And number 6, a full completed packet that allows for a fully informed vote and decision. So those were the changes that were brought before the council, and so that is what we're going to hear today. You guys want to present anything before we go straight to public hearing, or?
Well, we can make some brief comments and just kind of give you an overview again of this application. So it's a zone change from the current zoning, which is residential R110 and residential agricultural, to planned development residential for the assisted living or the proposed assisted living project on the 5.43 acres, generally located between Santa Clara Drive and the Santa Clara River and east of Gates Lane. So the PD zone, for some of the audience may not be aware, the planned development zone requires the applicant to tell how the property will be used. So they have to bring three things to the city, and what we'll talk about tonight. First of all, the proposed use, which they've done that. This is an assisted living facility. They have to show the layout, which we call the site plan, and we'll look at that layout tonight. And they have to show what the buildings will generally look like. Not exact, but generally what will these buildings look like? So it's not a bait and switch type thing. If this project were not to go forward, if we're approved, then anything else would have to come back to the city and go through the same hearing process. So anyway, tonight, what they present is what they must build. So with that, the proposed assisted living consists of 112 total units, comprised of 38 independent living units. These are interior living units, 40 assisted living units, and 20 memory care units. And when we say units, some people might refer to these more as rooms, because these units we just mentioned do not have cooking facilities. But in addition to those units, they do have 14 independent senior living units that would be similar to a townhome, and they do have kitchen facilities. And that distinction between kitchen facilities and not having kitchen facilities, and if they don't have kitchen facilities, then they use the central dining room, or the meals are delivered to the room. And that's important because of what we'll talk about in a minute, is this temporary land use regulation, which the city council adopted on February 24th of this year, which again, it's temporary. It's in place for a maximum of 6 months. But to address the issue of density, the city has adopted, again, it's temporary regulation, but based on what some other cities have done in terms of how do we treat assisted living units, the temporary regulation came down in this manner, is that if the assisted living or the independent living unit has its own kitchen facility, then it's treated just as a normal or a typical dwelling unit for density purposes. It's considered a regular residential unit. But if the unit does not have its own kitchen facilities, in other words, they're dependent on the central dining room or the meals are delivered, then the density factor is there'd be 2 of these assisted living units would equal 1 typical living unit. So anyway, that's a regulation that was adopted by the city council on February 24th to kind of address how these assisted living would be categorized in terms of a density consideration. So and given that, and we can go into more detail, but because they have 98 units without any cooking facilities, then on a 2-for-1, what they call equivalent residential basis, that translates to 49 standard, you might say standard units, but then in addition, they add the 14 townhome units that do have kitchen facilities. That comes up to 63, what we call 63 equivalent residential units. Okay. Little confusing, but that's what we're dealing with. So in addition to the assisted living, there is 2,000 to 3,000 square feet of proposed neighborhood commercial that fronts Santa Clara Drive, right at the corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive, on that southeast corner. And we'll look at the rendering here in a minute, but it's a single level building, assisted living, somewhat underneath because the change in the elevation, but from Santa Clara Drive, it's a 1-story proposed neighborhood commercial building. So let's just jump back to the assisted living. The project is outside the 100-year floodway and the 100-year floodplain, but the applicants will need to provide some additional erosion protection along the Santa Clara River frontage. Also, there is a half acre of this project area that's within the historic district, you may recall, and that's proposed for a memory care. And they've been before the Historic Heritage Commission twice, and the Heritage Commission most recently recommended approval. And they deal mostly with just the design. They just look at the design of the buildings, not so much the use. That's Planning Commission and Council. So anyway, and if there was any change to their design that was presented, conceptual design, then they're going to have to go back to the Heritage Commission. And of course, with that, they go Heritage Commission, then Planning Commission, then City Council. I kind of briefly covered that temporary land use regulation. If you have any questions, we could discuss that some more, but if not, we'll go on. The general plan, which is also referred to as the city master plan, shows this corner area, the southeast corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive, as mixed use residential. And this proposed, and the mixed use residential, if you in the general plan, talks about a designation appropriate for a variety of housing types, townhomes, multifamily, neighborhood commercial uses such as small retail stores and offices. So the proposed use, proposed project does fit within that general plan designation of mixed use residential. So we've mentioned that there's a half acre in the historic district. They again have looked at the elevation drawing and recommended approval. So talking about density in the PD zone, there's the base density of 8 units per acre, but the city also has a called density bonus provision where a project that is deemed to have outstanding design features, both in terms of the site plan and in terms of the building design, if it's determined to be, excellent design, then they can earn an additional 50% density bonus. So that would take it from a possible 8 units per acre up to 12. And this project is seeking the density bonus provision. They're applying for that. So under the density bonus provision, if that was awarded, their 5.43 acre site times 12 units per acre would come to 65 maximum units. The applicant's request tonight is for 63, those what we call equivalent residential units. So they're within the density if the density bonus provision were awarded. And we've looked at the design of these buildings previously. They haven't changed to my understanding, other than that the buildings, instead of being one large or 2 large complexes, have been cut into smaller buildings. And I would let the applicants, address the architecture, although I think people that have attended the prior 2 meetings on this issue probably understand pretty well what the proposed design is, but I think it'd be worthwhile just to have the applicants maybe give a quick overview. Parking and traffic. When we look at estimates for trip generation, we go to what is called the Institute for Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual. Marv probably has it memorized.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we got some numbers. I had access to what's called the 7th edition. There's been additional editions of that come out, but the trip generation, let me just summarize, is again, these are estimates on the assisted living units are expected to generate about 2.6 trips per bed per day. And the memory care units are expected to generate about 2 trips per bed per day. And the assisted, and the independent living are estimated to generate about 3.7 trips per day. On the assisted living and the memory care, those numbers reflect what the estimated staff and visitors generate, because these people in the memory care and the assisted living typically do not drive.
As a point of comparison, what does a normal residential home generate?
Between 9 and 10 trips per day.
Okay,
9 and 10, and then if it's a townhome, it's what, 6.5, something in that range, about 6.5 for a townhome, but 10 per day. Out, going and coming are 2 trips, when you look at those trips. So these, yeah, significantly lower than what you'd see in a typical dwelling. The difficulty for staff, not being traffic engineers, is that when you look at the manual, they look at 3 separate uses as if it was one project with memory care, one project with assisted living, and one with independent. This is a project that merges all 3. And so there's some trips deduction because they use the same staff, similar staff and handles, the cooking facilities, the cooks, the janitors, all those people that create trips are, they're combining their efforts. So, it's a little difficult for me, and I don't know if the applicants have had a chance or had their traffic engineer look at that, but it would be something somewhat less than taking these individually as if they were 3 independent projects. So, of course, the other thing we have to keep in mind about traffic generation, the problem that a lot of people see, which is a real problem, is the traffic on Santa Clara Drive, which is a state highway. And this over time will generate a relatively minor addition to the traffic flow on Santa Clara Drive because of all the things that are happening west of Santa Clara and up to the Heights and the Ivans and even further Kayenta. All these developments obviously come back, and most of them use Santa Clara Drive. So it's an issue the city's going to have to learn to manage the traffic, but this project will generate a relatively minor amount of that future traffic growth. In terms of parking, the city parking ordinance basically lumps the assisted living and memory care under the category of nursing homes. And that parking requirement is 4 spaces plus 1 space for each 3 beds. For the assisted living and the memory care, the 60, again, 40 and 20, 40 assisted living, 20 memory care, 60 units, then the minimum parking requirement under the city code would be 24 parking spaces. For the independent senior living, the city parking does not have a specific recommendation, but typically the parking that is required is somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5 spaces per unit. So if you use those numbers, the parking requirement for the independent living units where people do drive to some extent, parking would be somewhere between 67 and 78 total parking. So you add all those up and it's approximately 91 spaces if the city, if we use the 1.3 parking requirement, 1.3 spaces per unit for the independent care. That's probably something we'll have to make a recommendation to the council. They'll have to agree or not on that issue since the code doesn't specifically address it. So the applicant shows 95 parking spaces, which we feel is a reasonable amount. But again, that will require, that would guess to be a recommendation from the planning commission to the city council for the parking. One item that we omitted to post on tonight's agenda it's been heard previously, but on tonight's agenda was the conditional use application for the commercial that fronts Santa Clara Drive. The one building, we'll look at it, one building, single level, 2,000 to 3,000 square feet of area. Because it's not on a separate agenda item, we'll have to come back at the next planning commission meeting, but so we can discuss it, we can hear about it, concerns or whatever else, but as far as taking action on that commercial, because it's not specifically on the agenda, we'll have to, again, take that at the next meeting, so. I guess in wrap up, the staff feels good about the proposed project for a couple of reasons. First of all, it basically it's compliant with the city general plan, the designation on the city map. And the services offered by the proposed project are valuable to the residents. And there's a lot of people in Santa Clara that 10, 20 years from now will be looking for probably a place like this. And right now, the only options go to St. George or someplace else. And the city general plan for Santa Clara also talks about having housing that meets the life cycle needs of residents, not only from the, affordable housing for the young marrieds, but this type of facility for people in the senior years. So anyway, that's all I have, is unless you have questions.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one question. On the density for the area, it's 5.43 acres and then there's 0.52 of commercial. Is that is that additional acreage? So it's a little over 6 acres?
No, the entire site is 5.43.
So how does the commercial play into the density bonus or to the density?
It's a good question. It doesn't come into play in the density bonus because that applies only to residential units.
So would the density actually be based on the 4 or the 5 acres instead of the commercial portion of it?
Good question. Normally on a project like this, the commercial is looked as just kind of an accessory. It's almost a service feature to the project. We haven't excluded the area. The footprint for that 2,000 to 3,000 square foot building would be relatively small. Probably not even a quarter of an acre. I don't know. The applicants have to tell us. It's the actual footprint is probably about the same as the floor area. It's 3,000 to 5,000 perhaps, plus some required parking, which they show some additional parking, angle parking on the future Benelli Drive. So I don't think you need to exclude that area from the calculations.
Anything else from council or from commission? Okay, Corey?
So we've had several people want their public comments read into the record, but I'm noticing that some of the people that are here,
Why don't you read their names and see if they're here?
yeah,
And then we'll
Wayne, would you
open.
like to just, you want me to read it in, or are you gonna? Is there a Shannon Morando here? Is there any other?
He's on it, right?
So I'll go ahead and announce the name, and if you want to speak, if that's your public comment, please let me know and I'll let you do the comment. So I have now 15 comments. The first public comment is from
Yeah, go ahead.
Shannon
Gotta open.
Maramo.
Do I need to open the public hearing before
do.
you do that? Okay, well, then I open the public hearing. We'll let Corey read these comments first, and then if you want to come up and make your comment, you need to state your name, your address, where you live. And then in trying to keep things short and to the point as much as possible. And if your point has already been made by somebody else, you don't need to come up and duplicate the same conversation again, please. And then just everybody keep in mind that we are not final decision makers. We're up here to make sure that the applicant is following all the rules that the city has laid out. Okay, so anyway, Corey, carry on.
Yes, Shannon Monramo, address 3158 Santa Clara Drive. Public comment. I read the article that was published in the St. George News on 2/24/2021. It has been said that Mr. Hafen now has the support to get the okay for his assisted living project. To the city council, I ask why this is being allowed to be brought up again. Do the concerns of the residents not mean anything? I question the power and friends Mr. Hafen has to once again bring this before the city once again. I am absolutely against this. The next public comment, Ricky Eastman. He lives at 3630 Vista View Drive. We venomously oppose to this redistricting plan. How many dollar stores, car washes, and assisted living facilities do we need in the same bucolic place? I call home. Enough is enough. Please vote no. Thank you, Ricky Edmonds. Public comment number 4. This is from Susan Sharika. And the address is 1318 North, 390 East Ivins, Utah. Her comment is, why is the development again being considered? No one in the community wants it. Public traffic on streets ill-equipped to handle it, overuse of the infrastructure for which I am paying, an increase in the use of services for which I'm paying, flood hazard to anyone living on any structure in that area, light pollution, infringing on the invaluable dark skies. These are the reasons and more. Vote no. Item number 5, Gary Lampett. Comment, hello, my name is, we are Gary and Jill Lampett, and we live in the Sycamores area of Santa Clara Bridge, near the bridge. We write this to the attention of the Planning Commission and to anyone else in total and complete opposition to the proposed zone change of the assisted living facility at the corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Boulevard. We take this position for several reasons. Number 1, it doesn't fit the area, period. To dump this monstrosity in this little jewel of a town in its historic district is beyond shocking, ridiculous, and self-serving. Item 2, it will increase the traffic congestion that we already draw and get out of control with the amount of building that is being done in Ivins. If the zoning is changed, it will open the door to more zoning changes, requests for other projects in the area, and completely change and lose the unique and precious historic character of Santa Clara City, which must be preserved. 4, we must keep the residential and agricultural nature of Santa Clara and its surrounding area. People have come here to invest and live to get away from this type of thing. Number 5, we feel that due to its size and scope, it would wield too much influence in the activities and the nature of Santa Clara. 6, it will ruin Santa Clara. I'm not gonna, the other one's derogatory, so I'm not gonna put it on there. We want to know why we have to keep fighting this. We have stated that we don't want it, and it has been voted down twice. So why is it here again? We believe that there's a period of the year before the developer can request the change again. But here we are wasting time and energy to oppose it. Why aren't the elected city officials standing up for the desires of the constituents? It seems that the residents have no voice in their own city. You get my point. And in case you don't, let me repeat it. We oppose the zone change and the construction of the assisted living complex in Santa Clara City. To clear up one of his points, why are we hearing it again? At the beginning of the meeting, we sort of stated what those requirements were, and that's why we're hearing it again. We're following the city ordinance. Number 6. This is from Heidi Heaton. I strongly oppose the zone change for the proposed assisted living facility, residents of Santa Clara Valley. And
Where did what was that person's address?
yeah, I don't have it on here.
You want to say that again, Denise? What was the address, Denise? Okay, thank you. Yep.
This is at the back. Got it. Heidi Heat. That was from Heidi Heating. Yes, 3801 Cottonwood Lane, number 1. This one is from Rob Gray. My name is Rob Gray. My family and I live at 3264 Santa Clara Drive, directly across from the street from the proposed assisted living complex. I'm upset with that Mr. Heaton is again taking up city employee and community members' valuable time with this proposal. Twice already, the vast majority of community members living close to the project have voiced their displeasure with the proposal, and the city council has voted against it for very valid reasons. I read through this third proposal. I can't see any differences from the first 2 proposals other than Mr. Hafen says he now has community support, yet no one has talked to me or my immediate neighbors, those living closest to the project, to garner support. I imagine the support Mr. Hafen refers to is from people who do not live within a half mile of the project, those who will be unaffected by it. I am certain Mr. Hafen can find suitable land elsewhere in Santa Clara that does not lie in the historic district and is not zoned residential agriculture, where this project would not have such a negative effect on the surrounding residents. Please tell Mr. Hafen that no means no, that the surrounding community has already voiced their displeasure and that the opinions from those in the project vicinity has not changed. And please do not allow him to continue to waste the city employees and community members' valuable time by presenting denied applications. Thank you. Number 8. This is from Carol Tripto. And she resides at 1385 Sycamore Drive. Hi, we are writing to voice our opposition to the proposed assisted living center on Santa Clara Drive. We live in the Sycamore development and can see nothing positive about having such a facility developed practically in our neighborhood. Isn't it time to let this one die? Thanks, David and Carol Tripto. Number 9. This is from Ron Clemens de La Salle. And he lives at 3199 West Santa Clara Drive. Hello, Chris Shelley. Is this yours? I'll let Number 10. This one is from Patty Warby. You're here? Okay, number 11, we have a message from Michaela Levitt. Okay, Michaela Levitt lives at 1388 Quill Street. I'm opposed to the zone change for the proposed assisted living facility and would like to be counted on the record. Michaela Levitt. Number 12. This is from Colleen Webster. Colleen Webster. Colleen Webster lives at sorry, we don't have an address. It didn't come in with an address and the phone. Pardon?
Callan, yeah, it's Callan.
$14.85 Chapel. And his comment, please do not give into the bribes of the developer. Do the right thing for the city by voting against the zone change. 13. This one is from Tyler Miller, who resides at 107 South, 1470 East, number 202A, St. George. I'm writing in regards to the proposed zone change on the corner of Santa Clara Drive and Gates Lane. It is my understanding that there is a proposed zone change to have this property allowed assisted living and change from R110 and agricultural zoning because I will be unable to attend tomorrow's hearing. I am writing to voice my dissent for the proposed change. As a current resident, I would like to see the zoning remain as is and keep the area in harmony with the farmland and residential nature of its surroundings. Please keep my voice and opinion in mind as you move forward to vote on this matter. Number 14 is from Leslie Levitt, 1401 Quell Street. Okay. Good morning, Chris. Will you please forward my email to the committee members and read the comments from public record. She would not be able to attend. Her comment is, I express my opposition to the zone change from R110 agricultural low density to planned development residential high density for the assisted living townhomes, commercial building along Santa Clara River Wash. Back in November 2020, I am once again strongly opposing the change due to a negative impact on extremely high traffic in our calm, peaceful neighborhood. I am appalled that this discussion has been brought to light again, as I know it is your job to do what is in the best interest of Santa Clara's neighbors and friends. I fully anticipate a no vote to the zone change as your meeting tomorrow evening. Let's put this to rest once and for all. Comment number 15 is from Terry Moore. Terry and Lori Moore reside at 3209 Santa Clara Drive. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are asked to debate the worthiness and merits of the Kyle Haven Assisted Living Center proposal. I will reiterate my strong belief shared by many others in the community that this location is unsuitable for housing of this nature. While we have assurances from the Army Corps of Engineers that this project is protected, those who have been in the valley know that realities of the flood that will affect this area. With 2 bridges now to clog up and potential is even higher. The density and traffic which will thrust upon the community will become highly problematic. Lastly, with the LDS orchard now belonging to the city and designated to remain green space, it would make perfect sense to continue that concept through the area in discussion. Parks, soccer fields, green space is what this area calls for to mitigate the potential high hazard of this area. If, however, you feel that it is your responsibility to pass this on to City Council, please do so with at least a recommendation that the parking for the commercial area on Santa Clara Drive be closed to the stores. That has been deleted from this, but we all know that no one is going to park and walk a quarter mile uphill to go to a store. Put the parking off of Santa Clara Drive west of the home at 3261 Santa Clara Drive instead of the green space as proposed. If commercial space is going to be there, let's give it a fair chance to succeed. Since the last meeting, the developers have not reached out to me nor my neighbors for any reason. Therefore, those who were opposed last time have not changed their minds, but even more resolute because of the lack of communication. Thank you for your consideration, Terry and Lori Moore. And number 16 is from Ed Combs. Is Ed here? And with that, I will leave it to the public hearing.
We have just a few more comments that were made online. Tara Landis, 2920 Santa Clara Drive. I am opposed to the zone change for the assisted living project. I would like to be counted on the record. Victor and Gwendolyn Fry, 1486 Victor Street. I would like to be counted on the record as opposed to the zone change for the proposed assisted living center due to my husband and I cannot be present. Stephanie Erickson, 1502 Victor Street. I am opposed to the zone change for the proposed assisted living. Although I am unable to attend tonight, I would like to be counted on the record as being against it. Please listen to the many citizens who will be there to represent us.
Okay, thank you. And then now the floor is yours. Again, let's keep it as tight as you can and be specific. And if you're, and not try to regurgitate or duplicate things that have already been said. Okay, carry on.
My name is Wayne Johnson. I live at 3105 Santa Clara Drive. And I have to say that I think that the entire project, the entire thing going on here is simply absurd. The city council is turning down twice, and it's not because of the color of his roofs. It's because the citizens do not want an assisted living in that area. That's Old Town, that's residential. It's not. And I mean, how many people have attended? Was it 200 at one time? So what you really need to do is simply look at that fact. Now, if you know something we don't know that magically makes this different, we'd like to hear it. Because it's really no different. And I wonder why Mr. Hafen gets all of these little things here, while the rest of us that have explained, and as you heard all of that, that it's not something we desire. And we had to do two things. First thing, three things to start with. Number one, had to change the city plan. And they went for that, but they didn't get that fast. Then they had to change the zoning again. Now they want a different zone. They're just trying to get it in there. And once it's in there, who knows, then it opens it up. It's the old proverbial slippery slope. But there's many things that could be in there that would be much better. I'm not against assisted living. And if they wanted to build one, there's several more appropriate places than down by the Santa Clara River. I'm not against Mr. Hafen making money. That's what he likes to do. What I'm against is you guys not listening to the citizens. And I believe that's what you're supposed to do. It says on your things, Planning Commission. And do you plan? Plan for the citizens. Plan for what we like. Plan for Santa Clara. Just don't plan for Mr. Hafen. So that's all I have to say. And I believe most of these people here will say some of the basic same things. I hope you listen to us and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. I just want to, before you go, I want to make a comment that, again, we're actually not elected officials. Okay, so, and we are just here to fulfill the law, which means if we have a petition, we have to hear it. Okay, so thank you for your comments.
So you're telling me you're blowing us off again?
Crystal Hageman, 1483 Boys Pond Circle. I'm going to talk mostly on notes that I've come up with from the February 11th meeting. And I just need some clarification on some things. But first, the temporary land use regulation that was adopted in February. For some reason, we were under the understanding that if that was in use, then the applicant has to wait 6 months. Does anybody know about that? How does that work?
No, that's not true. So the temporary land use regulation is in effect for 6 months.
It's in effect, but it doesn't. Okay, that we needed clarification on that. But that did clarify what a unit is, right? what you were talking about before. And so I'm just wondering, before you were at 110 units and now it's 112. So I don't see how that's a significant difference. I just wanted to bring that up. And then if you, in the general business, the last 5 pages that were in the packet, I'm just going to read from those 5 pages. And I need some clarification from Kyle, because on page 2, it says they conducted a survey asking respondents if they would like to have a senior living facility within Santa Clara's boundaries, and received an overwhelmingly positive response. So I just want to know what that survey, if you have a copy of that, and who responded. Okay. Okay. And then it goes on to say, Acting Chair Wilson asked for more information about the poll that showed significant public support. Mr. Hafen stated that a little over 200 people responded, with 93% in favor. He was unsure how representative that percentage truly is. He explained that there have been projects that had 100 to 200 people against them, but a survey of all the residents of Santa Clara would not have clearly illustrated the opposition or the support the project actually had. A new public hearing would show the support verbally. And I'm hoping that you can see the support against it. He added that after having 2 different site visits, a Zoom meeting and meeting individually with residents who would be most impacted. And I would like to add that we were the ones that had the Zoom meeting, and we were the ones that invited neighbors and friends to go on site. We did try to work with Mr. Hafen. We don't like contention. We wanted to see if there was any way that we could come together as a community and try to make this work. And it just won't work, because we don't want the zone changed. We were hoping we could maybe find something that could fit in there without the significant changes and the significant size of the facility. And he's kind of set because of the investors, the people who are going to be building the facility. They have certain parameters and certain things that they need to do. So it didn't work for us to be able to come together. Again, on page 2, it states, Mr. Bundy explained that the proposed project remains basically the same, but the applicant has reported the application is now more complete, and public support for the zone change request has increased substantially. So interesting. The Planning Commission must determine what evidence is needed to verify the claim of a significant change in public support, and whether adequate evidence has been provided to move forward to schedule another public hearing before the Planning Commission and reconsideration by the City Council. The project has gone through the hearing process twice before, with the second time involving moving the project further to the west toward Gates Lane. If it is decided by the Planning Commission that there is adequate evidence of a significant change in public support, another public hearing will be scheduled and the project will be considered for a 3rd time. So here we are. And I hope that we are doing our job by showing you how we feel. Mr. Bundy noted that without a significant change, the applicant would be required to wait 1 year from the date the City Council denied the request. And significant change is, that means something different to everybody. So how do we determine that? For us, we don't feel like there was a significant change. Yes, it got broke up into 6 different pieces, but it's still the same number of units. In fact, it increased by 2. Commissioner Call explained that he was the only member of the Planning Commission that did not vote to approve the previous plan. He expressed support for the project, but stated that he would vote against it because he did not feel that the residents were very supportive of the zone change. Thank you, Commissioner Call. The residents who are supportive tend to be people who are affiliated in some way with Split Rock. He puts more weight on the opinions of the people who live closest to the project. He felt the strong public support is very important for zone changes. So just at this time, I know there's people, we've been here for over an hour now. And so I'm just, if it's okay, just like for a show of hands and in the other room, all the people that are here that are against the zone change, will you please raise your hand? Is there any way for you to see the people in the other room? Will someone go count? So we just have it on the record, because otherwise you won't know if people are here just sitting here if they're for it or against it. So I think that would be great. So, and I would just like to also say that I am not against assisted living. I'm not anti-assisted living. I just don't feel that what they are proposing is right for that section of land. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Oh, I just said well done.
Oh,
Great job.
My name's Farron Levitt, 1394 Quill Street, about a block from the proposed facility. I don't know how many of you have seen the commercial about trying to get the fastest internet, but the question was, are we really going to do this again? I think that's quite appropriate. We've been through it several times. But if you remember the flood of 2005, the area where this is proposed was under approximately 6 feet of water. He can build a dike, anybody can build a dike, but that doesn't mean the water's going to adhere to it. I helped pull out trailer houses and saw a house and a mobile home go down the creek that was only maybe 200 feet from where we're talking. So in spite of the floodplain, it's going to be a dangerous situation for those people that are in there. The other thing I'd like to mention is there's only one access apparently proposed, all onto Gates Lane and onto Santa Clara Drive. It is already impossible to make a left-hand turn off of that street. I'm sure it's going to require stoplights or something to make it possible to move traffic. And I hope, and I've said it before, that the city will consider removing the boxes off of this main drive so that we can get up and down the street and have a turn lane as it is. I turn left, I go to my farm on Gates Lane, and I sometimes sit up to the corner for 5 minutes trying to make a left-hand turn because there's traffic coming from Ivans, which we've all acknowledged. Most of the traffic comes from the other further out. That's not going to change. But something's got to be done right now. And this is only going to make it much worse. I've got about 25 acres of agricultural land, catty corner from this facility. It makes it awful hard to sit here and see people make these big improvements, housing, and make all this money and keep land in agriculture, especially with kids that want to develop. I do not want to see a zone change. I hope you'll consider leaving it as it is, or at the most single house development like the rest of the area. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm Greg Levitt. I live at 1388 Quell Street, and I just want to stand and I want to let you guys know I'm fully against this as well. For a lot of the same reasons we've already talked about it. I feel like it's the little kid coming back to the parent over and over again until somebody gives in. I, again, just strongly opposed to this. I was here with the flood. I was there sandbagging the very house that Kyle Hafen bought. I was there when Terry Moore's house got flooded. I was there when the car got washed around the curve. So I've seen the flood myself. I was heavily involved with that. And then just to add in another thing I've thought recently above, and as I was feeding my dad's cows this morning, it's never been addressed by the city, is that street is turned into a raceway. And I know you had a bike race, a sign there that got canceled last week. I know this is a city issue, but as I was feeding this morning, there was a truck that was doing at least 60 miles an hour down that street. And with the news of our neighbor right here in Santa Clara that got hit by a car, Sean Bradley, right outside our city limits. You start putting a senior living center there, who's going to be the next one that gets hit? I saw people that were walking the streets, walking their dogs this morning, kids on their bikes. And we're already got a raceway down there. Now you're going to add in 100 and something senior living people that you know well, and I know, whether assisted living, whether they're in a dementia unit, whatever, they do get out and they get lost and they wander. And it is dark over there. So I'm just wanted to point out there is some safety issues that need to be addressed as this as well. And I'll just leave it at that. Keep it as short as possible. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Butch Graff. I live at 1540 Squabish Gum Drive. I'm opposed to it. I understand the developer, whoever, I don't even know who owns the property. They got a right to do with their property what they want. I've had issues trying to do stuff with my property and been told by the city, no, you can't do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Well, the thing I want to address, first of all, you talked about the traffic. Nobody's mentioned every time that the freeway shuts down because of a wreck, the amount of traffic that comes down through Santa Clara. That's a stoplight would definitely help, but it's still not going to alleviate that problem. Secondly, this road that goes across that bridge ties into a future beltway that comes from Sun River all the way up around. And if you don't think that's going to put traffic through, the only bridge going across Santa Clara, you got another thing coming. So I want you to consider some of these other things instead of just looking at what's right now. Traffic is going to keep increasing more and more. The hills, that Split Rock project, that's going to continue on and it's going to get going. There's going to be it. Like you say, he was saying about the bike races. We have bike races. We have foot races. We have just everyday activity there. Every weekend, we have helicopters landing out there because of injuries. This is stuff you guys have not considered or addressed. And I just think it needs to be brought to your attention. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anita DeLellis. I live at 3199 Santa Clara Drive, also owner of Wolf Center. We are, along with our neighbor Terry and Neil, most directly affected by the assisted living proposal. I'd like to face Kyle right now and ask him if he's come to talk to me at all. No. So one of the three neighbors that's most affected by the project has not been spoken to. So how can he say he has full support? I'll just leave that there. You guys are intelligent enough to make your own conclusions out of that. My question to you is, you're saying to me that you are not here to approve or not approve. You're only here to recommend. Is one of your responsibilities as the Planning Commission to concern yourselves with the fact that that is a floodplain. Is that not something that's in your responsibility or your purview to consider when you're approving this?
The staff would look at that, would look at those guidelines on floodplain.
Okay, I don't see any major changes or address that issue at all in any of the packets that I've read. So I would propose to you that you seriously consider reviewing the flooding issues in that area. I've worked on the advertising and marketing side. I've worked with developers on doing renderings and proposed site plans. I've seen how one thing is approved and something totally different built. Please remember that and take that into consideration too. And I would really like somebody to come and speak to the 3 people that are the most affected by the assisted living community. Nobody has done that. Nobody has come to offer suggestions or recommendations or ask our opinion. It would be really nice if somebody from the Planning Commission would come and stand in my backyard and tell me what they think. And if it was theirs, what would they think? I run a business on Santa Clara Drive. There is a proposal for 5,000, 3,000 square feet of retail space. My shop is less than 1,000 square feet. I have FedEx deliveries. I have UPS deliveries. I have a driveway they can pull in. Most of the time they just park on the road. That's understandable. But you've now approved retail space right up to Santa Clara Drive. There's the retail space, the sidewalk, and the road. 3,000 square feet of space is going to require a lot of deliveries. It's going to require trash pickup. I had to go through a planning meeting also for my property and have enough parking spaces and handicap access parking spaces, close enough to where people could walk into my store. If you're going to have retail up here, and you're saying that retail is not part of this, whether you're making this decision tonight, it's going to be brought up at another meeting, I understand. But it has to be. It has to be because it's an integral part of what the developer is trying to do. It needs to be addressed. It's not been addressed enough. Dumpsters, people parking, people walking to the store from wherever their parking space is. None of that's been addressed, and yet that's part of the plan and part of the proposal. So I just think that would be nice that you say that there's been significant changes. I see a few, not enough, not significant, and not enough has been addressed or flushed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ron DeLawless, 3199 Santa Clara Drive. Nita's husband, and not quite as eloquent as she is, so bear with me. I want to try to make it a little more real. I understand you're the zoning committee only, and a lot of people are bringing up the assisted living project, and you really actually aren't making a decision on that tonight, but you are making a decision on the zoning. And that is, it's a very, have a lot of power in that decision, because what comes next is dependent on what you guys decide today. If you want to keep residential, low density residential and farming in the community, where else would you put it? This is the view from my backyard right now. So Kyle has some beautiful horses out there. This is the same view that the people from Sycamore get to see from the other angle. Every once in a while, the horses come up to the fence. We enjoy giving them carrots. I'm just trying to make it real because, it's easy to look at a plot map and say, oh, well, this should be planned development and let's put a XYZ project here. But this is very likely, and I'm not exaggerating, what we can expect if this project goes forward. There's a row of memory care 10 feet from our fence. Right now, no elevations have been shown. I have no idea what the back's going to look like. All the attention naturally goes to the front of the design. I won't get into that, but I'm trying to make you realize, and please be honest, if this was your backyard, and I know you hear this a lot, but if this was your backyard and you had the power to keep it historic, residential, or agricultural, quaint, or this type of future development, what would you do? What would you decide in your own backyard? And you owe it to us as residents to make those decisions based on how it affects us. And it's going to have a huge effect on us, both the residents and our business. So I understand zoning's the first step, but don't pass it off. Don't just think, well, we just have to do this decision and let the city council decide. It's a lot of waste of energy, and we'll all show up again and we'll all talk about the same things, the traffic, the flooding. So don't pass it off. I'm asking you to if you can put a stop to it right here. The irony of all of this is I'm actually not asking you to do anything. None of us are asking you to do anything. We don't want it changed. We want it to remain. So don't do anything tonight, and keep it where it is. To lighten things up a little bit, I tend to be a wannabe writer. I got a poem here called Insanity. So here we are once again today to vote on the old folks' home that won't go away. You voted twice before in March and November. Do you remember? It's like beating a horse on its head, but only God can resurrect from the dead. So be human, not God, and do what's right, so we can all go home and get on with the night. They say insanity is repeating the past, expecting a change from the vote we had last. So please do right. Don't let your vote wane, and prove to us all that this committee is sane. Thanks, guys.
I'm CJ Aldridge. I've got a lot up in the sycamores just up here. I guess maybe I came ill prepared. I'm going to be brief. I don't have a poem or anything with me tonight, but I'm actually really looking forward to this project. This will be right in my backyard, and I think it's a great use of the land. I think it's a great addition to the community, and I think it's a great use of the space. Again, very supportive.
Good evening. My name is Patty Warby, 3268 Santa Clara Drive. We live on the northeast corner of Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive, which is right directly across, north of the proposed senior living project. My husband and Alan and I want you to know that we are against this proposed zoning change. Please understand, we're not against this type of project being built in Santa Clara. We're opposed to having it across the street from our home. We have several concerns. One, the only time that we were directly contacted by anyone and asked our opinion about this proposed site was last fall. Prior to the meeting in November, a gentleman came to our door, asked if we were in favor of having an assisted living center across the street. We answered no. And he said, thank you, and left. That was the last time we were asked anything regarding our opinion on having this project built across from us. No surveys by phone, by mail, or in person. Projected construction for the living center or assisted living center is approximately 2+ years. During this time, there will be a lot of noise, increased traffic from the site itself. But there are also other construction projects in this area which are not limited to the Sycamores and the South Hills. Also of note is the construction of the Legacy Field soccer complex out at the Shivwitz Indian Reservation. That is supposed to, they proposed 1,800 matches per year. How are those people going to get there? Not only the construction crews to build that complex, but once that's built, the athletes. That is a lot of cars going up and down Santa Clara Drive. This past summer, trucks hauling dirt from the South Hills, they would start arriving between 5:30 and 6 a.m., line up past the bridge and then wait their turn. Most recently, we've had construction trucks coming in and out of those areas as early as 4:30 in the morning. A lot of those trucks, their loads are not covered. Dirt comes out onto the street. It increases dirt in our residential areas. And then some of those trucks disregard the Jake brake adherence, thus increasing noise. Can Santa Clara Drive handle the additional wear and tear that will come from the increased traffic? An additional concern is the street level commercial space. As mentioned previously, available parking is limited. Ellen and I and our neighbors do not want employees of these businesses or customers to be parking on the street in front of our house. For those customers who park in the limited space provided by the assisted living center, they're going to need to walk up either steps or an incline to get to the business. Location is not conducive to shopping or walk-in and the street level. There is no guarantee that commercial businesses will be successful. And do we really want more empty buildings along Santa Clara Drive? Generally, very few businesses located in the downtown area of Santa Clara have been successful. We've had multiple restaurants, a floral shop, and an art gallery. The assisted living center can bring its own concerns, increased traffic for deliveries, such as medical, pharmacy, delivery of supplies, ambulances. If residents become ill or have an emergent situation, need to be transported to the hospital. Weekly deliveries from food and produce companies for meal preparation at the center, and safety. I have a real concern of somebody in one of those memory care units that is able to walk out, gets on the street, becomes even more confused, walks out in front of traffic. I would have a hard time placing my family member in an area, in a assisted living center that is this close to busy streets. As mentioned earlier, Gates Lane is like a raceway some days with the cars going up and down there, not to mention the traffic that's on Santa Clara Drive. We have always enjoyed the small town historic atmosphere that most of us moved here for. Does this zoning change add to that atmosphere? And if so, how? We appreciate being able to share thoughts this evening and hope that you will take in consideration the thoughts and opinions of all involved. And we thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I've got a court of honor to run to, so I need to jump up here. But Nate Muno, 3865 Mitchell Drive, and up in the Heights. I do have a lot like this gentleman over there in the Sycamores, the corner lot looking down in the area. So it's a tough one. It's difficult because I've seen what Kyle Hafen has done, and he's tried and he's tried and he's tried. He's tried to get to the point where people will catch the vision of what he's seen. And yes, he's a developer, and yes, he has to make money. And yes, there's several of those scenarios that play into it. But I guess part of my fear is more a question of, if not this, then what? So if we don't have a great neighbor like a assisted living facility, and it really seems like it's changed to the degree that I actually am starting to feel really good about it. Like I feel like it could fit. I don't think it's going to be the traffic people think. I do have concerns about flooding. I think Theron's got a valid concern there, but I'm sure that that's something that'll be addressed. But I have seen, I have seen, and I've been at the meetings that Kyle has pulled people together and said, talk to me. What can I do to make this fit? And that means a lot. You know, that's a big move. It's a bold move. It's tough because there's enough people that want to oppose it. And I hope this doesn't put me in a position to not get cookies at my door when I move in over there. I'm probably gonna, if you see toilet paper, you'll see the response. You see what it ends up as. But no, this is why I love Santa Clara. I love the people that are here. And quite frankly, if I have any fears, it's that the people that are here that make up the opposition, that generation down the road won't be here to support my kids and to be the right examples and be those people. And so I think they're amazing people here. So it's a difficult position to be in, but I can say that Kyle, I didn't know him very well before this, but I've seen him try and try and try. And I think if people removed the fear that they have of what's not there, which he's done and worked pretty hard with me to overcome, and my wife's as well, she wished she could be here. I'm convinced that he's willing to make those concessions and say, I'll do everything that I can to make it fit. And like I say, I really hope that we don't get the wrong neighbor in here down the road because we didn't find someone like this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Don't leave yet. Ben Hageman, 1483 Boys Pond Circle. Just quick clarifications. Do either of you guys have tie-ins, relationship with the builder? Anyway, do you have opportunity to benefit anyway from the building? Okay, good. Did he ask you to come and? But asked you to come tonight and help? Okay, and asked you as well? So you, okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good. That helps clarify. Other question, this is a public hearing, correct? What influence does public hearing have on your decision? I need help understand the process.
On this planning commission?
Sure, on
That's
your
what you're saying?
decision to approve or make recommendations to the city. Does public input influence your decision at all?
I would say it is less than it affects the city council.
So when you say less, it doesn't, or?
No, it does. It definitely has an impact. Oh yeah, but it is not as impactful as it would be at city council.
Okay, just want to clarify.
That makes sense to you?
I just want to make sure, from what I hear you say, our voice does have an influence on your decision.
It does.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
And one thing that we've discussed in the past, and it continues to be true, is that we are a recommending body, but we look more on the administrative side of things. The city council is the political body, and they look more on the needs and wants of the
The
citizens.
zoning that's on there now, wasn't that recommended by the city planning commission previously? So why would we change that?
We had recommended it for the change.
No, I mean previously.
Well,
so we
there's-
had to recommend that
if-
be zoned a certain way at some point in time, right? Was it the city that said,
Yeah.
as a master plan, here's what we'd like to see happen?
It meets the general plan. If we would have stayed with if there was no zoning change in Santa Clara, it'd still be a small line of trees, small line of homes in the.
On the majority of
valley.
the residents in here.
Every-
Which I agree.
Everything's gone through a
There
zoning
has to
change.
be change. I mean, and there's going to be change. And I don't know what changes were made with public approval previously and how much. Have you seen more opposition on any other buildings that you've changed zone changes than this?
Regarding zone changes?
Yeah.
Not for a long time. We haven't done a zone change. in a
Not
long
zone
time.
changes, but
So it sounds like there hasn't been a lot of opposition to some of the zone changes you're referring to. Yeah, there's going to be change, but with that change.
so the other thing, Ben, that you need to keep in mind is that those plans are living documents. They're going to evolve, they're going to change, they're going to do based on the needs of the community. And that's an ever-changing thing. It's not an easy decision, there's no question, because it is a constantly evolving thing.
Yep.
So
And I understand that. And it boils down to me, I just hope you take the thoughts of the citizens. You've had more people oppose this than probably any other zone change. And so I hope you guys take that in consideration. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a point?
We went out of order.
There, a little point of order. There's some confusion. I think this will help the public because the Planning Commission has been appointed by the City Council to consider land use applications and also to have a hearing on zone changes. And so some of the criteria that the Planning Commission will look at are such things as, is the proposed use suitable in view of the zoning and development of adjacent and nearby property? Will the proposed use adversely affect the existing use or suitability of adjacent or nearby property? Does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare, and the right of the unrestricted use of property? So there's a hearing tonight to hear from the public. If you have thoughts that bear on those questions, the Planning Commission can consider those thoughts. So,
Thank you.
that's it. Thanks.
My name's Joe Platt. I own the property on Gates Lane and Santa Clara Drive, the southwest corner. If the situation were reversed here and any of those who have spoken against this project were themselves in the same position, they would not, I suspect, take kindly to others telling them to forget their property rights, eat their investment, and go broke. However humbly they might have stated their point of view, there is an arrogance in second guessing the staff on parking issues, floodplain issues, traffic issues, and questioning the ethics of anybody who supports the project. That's an arrogance that I hope you'll reject. I asked one of the naysayers in an earlier meeting, if we change the project to exactly what you suggested in your public comments, would you then vote for it? And they said, no, in fact, hell no. I think it's important that everybody involved in making the decision here understands that this opposition is not rational. They're not trying to get to a point where there's a quid pro quo or a resolution of the issue. They just want to be opposed to it. And it doesn't matter what it is. I honestly believe it wouldn't matter what it was. They'd be opposed to it. I own the property immediately across the street from this project, immediately on Gates Lane. I can't think of a better neighbor than an assisted living facility. More respectful, more quiet, less obnoxious, unless you want to put a cemetery there. Thank you.
Denise Webster, 1485 Chapel Street. Here we are again. I know you're tired of hearing from us, and just probably as much as we're tired of having to show up and do all of this. But I will say that we are grateful for the freedom that allows us to do this. And we appreciate the fact that we are given a voice and that you are willing to listen, because I think that is one of the freedoms that we may be losing coming. So thank you for listening. As a representative of the people here that are opposed to this facility, I have been asked to voice their concerns to limit the number of people getting up and to save us a little bit of time. So please allow me a few more minutes than normal for my comments. I did make notes of what people said so that I can make sure I address them. First of all, I would like to make you aware that we have met with Kyle several times. Crystal, Penny, Nate, as was mentioned, we have been working. We've been trying to work together and come to some understanding. Upon leaving our last meeting, however, I was really struggling. I realized that there were three things that happened. First of all the ideas that we had presented to Kyle to help him find something that would fit within the historical district and still provide some income opportunities were basically not listened to. We kept getting told he would be putting townhomes or storage units there if this didn't pass, in spite of all the ideas that we presented. 2, I was asked to give my 100% undying support to this project. I repeated over and over that I could not do that. This is not my first choice. It does not fit the residential neighborhood. It does not fit the historical district. It is way too big. If it were much smaller, home size, more like a beehive house, then perhaps. He said there was no negotiating on size, so I couldn't give my full support. Everyone there said the same thing. Nate, that just stood up, was one of them that agreed. He could not give 100% full support because if he had another choice that was better, he would take that choice first. So I left, I didn't like the feeling that I was being told I had to embrace this 100%. That really bothered me. Third, and most important, I walked out feeling very heavy. I realized that we had said the word afraid over and over and over. It was then I became aware that I was operating out of fear. I have plenty of experience knowing that if I am operating out of fear, it is coming from the wrong source and I am doing it for the wrong reasons. So I pondered what I was afraid of. The first time the fear hit was when Joe told us, and you just heard it, I own that other corner and you wait and see what I will do with it. I own that property and I can do what I want and you won't like it. That had us in a panic. We thought that maybe we could, if we could work with them, then they wouldn't threaten us with gigantic commercial buildings. But honestly, the threat of townhomes and storage units were repeated over and over. So our fears had us scrambling to compromise where we could. And the threat that the city would be sued over affordable housing issues had us concerned about the city as well. So after that meeting, I started digging in and looking at ordinances and making calls to understand what was really happening. When I understood that the city has met all requirements for affordable housing, it took my fears away so that I could look at things logically again and not operate on the wrong emotion. Kyle told us that he was going to make some changes to try to get this through again, so we were aware that this was going to be coming. And he said that he would get back to us. This was in December. Well, he reached out in January for the January planning and zoning meeting, but my mother-in-law had just passed away. I couldn't make it, and I was having a hard time just thinking at that time. So consequently, I have not seen any of the changes made to the project except for what was shown on this packet that I pulled up online. I can't see anything substantial. I can't see anything that made a substantial change in my mind. I did notice that a little corner was taken out here and a little pie shape was taken out there and a little piece was taken out there, but I can't see anything substantial. So as such, I have been asked again to voice some concerns. So these are the concerns that the people are bringing to me. Number one, the size. Based on the packet, now in the packet, there were two pictures I could see of the overall layout. One you've been showing tonight, and then there was another one that was from the previous packet so that you could kind of see the difference between the two. This was the new one. And the other one, I think it was just before those pictures. So those were the only two things I could compare. All of these other pictures were the very same, except for this one that was a back view. There was only a couple of other that were, showed a couple of different other houses. Based on what I saw in the packet on the first picture, on the first layout, it showed the footages for everything, and it showed the number of units. The second one only showed the square footage. So based on that, my deduction was it looks like there was a reduction of 11,000 square feet with those pie shapes and corners taken out. Now, why that probably seems like a lot, it doesn't really look like it's made a bunch of dent of looking in that. But I would like to qualify this for you. So if we can leave that picture up, that would be awesome, because that picture I would like to refer to. So one of the things that Kyle asked us to do was to go over and look at the 5 homes that are lining the sycamores. And he said, if we would take those 5 homes and turn around and set it down, it would represent what would be those 4 buildings across Benelli Road. So we thought, okay, all right. But then I started thinking about that. Those 5 homes on Sycamore Drive are on approximately a half an acre lot. And the size of those homes are approximately 5,000 square feet. Now I'm rounding it because I stink at math. Marv knows this. I don't do math well. So 5 houses on half acre lots is 2.5 acres at 25,000 square feet. His development is just over 5 acres. So if I double that, I had 10 houses, I had 50,000 square feet on 5 acres. The property that he proposed is 118,000 square feet. Even with the 11,000 square foot reduction, that would be 107,000 square feet. So to give this a little more context, and this one, I want to refer to specifically because this one really blows me away. And I'm really grateful that Ron brought some pictures and showed you the horses and the corrals he's looking at. So if you look in the top corner, the very top in the little U-shaped memory care facility building, based on the numbers I saw on the drawing, that building is 14,000 square feet. 14,000. That's 3 of the Sycamore's homes. 3 of those homes. That lot size, I looked it up, is 0.4 acres. It's not even a half an acre. That is 3 of the Sycamore homes on one little tiny lot. When he's talking about the neighbors being bordered by a really huge building, I kid you not, that is a huge, huge building in a very, very tiny space. Then I decided, well, okay, how do the 5 homes look if we're looking at the face? If you take 107,000 square feet, which is the diminished number, and you subtract 14,000, you're at about 93,000 square feet. And if you take away a little bit of the commercial building, and even the building that is lined underneath Santa Clara Drive, even if I say that's a 20,000 square foot building and I put this down to 80,000 square feet, assuming that those 4 buildings on Benelli Drive are 80,000 square feet, that is 15 Sycamore homes lining that. I just want to give that perspective, because what you see here comes out really different when things get built. And we're not just looking at a few houses. This is an extremely, extremely large building. And we have begged and begged and begged and said, look, if it was so much smaller, it would make a difference. And we were told there could be no compromise on that. Number 2, there's another assisted living facility that has been applied for to go on the heights next to Harmon's. This was the one place that we recommended from the very beginning. And so with the one going on there, the one just below Albertson's, and the gigantic, huge 4-story building that's literally 5 minutes away on Dixie Drive, we really don't have a need for an assisted living facility. We really don't need it. We've got them. There's plenty. We have enough. It doesn't need to be here. Number 3, a huge building like this does not fit in the middle of a residential neighborhood. According to our own city codes and ordinances, this is number 17.60.060, that is Planned Development Residential District. Letter B, the location of PDR districts says it may be located where sufficient land and infrastructure exist or are planned for, which will allow the development that meets the standards and requirements of this section. Planned developments should not be proposed on vacant lots lying between other single-family dwellings. That's our own code. Planned residential does not need to, should not lie between single residential buildings. It's surrounded by them. Also, in the very same section, neighborhood commercial uses and the PDR district provided, this is number 2, it says that the area is located no more than 3/4 of a mile from the farthest residential structure in the phase as measured via street distance. I am pretty sure none of that is 3/4 of a mile away from any of the houses. That does not even meet our own city code requirements. Number 4, the people want to preserve the agricultural lands. Toad Hafen was a council member who fought years ago really hard to preserve and protect these very lands so that we don't lose the agriculture ground we need for farming and gardening. The city codes and ordinances are written to protect those precious fields. Since a portion of this property is residential agriculture, we don't want to lose those. In our own city codes again, 17.60.010, the purpose of residential agriculture land is to promote and preserve in appropriate areas conditions favorable to large lot family living and also keeping a limited number of animals and fowl. The zoning district is intended to be primary residential in character, but has encouraged the maintenance and continued use of agriculture land. We love our gardens, and we really, really want to keep the agriculture land. 5, I had several people mention this one to me. Many people that have moved here told me that they did so to get away from this very thing, the developers and a big city feel. Many of the people that have talked to me said the very reason they moved here was a small town feel and the lack of big buildings and businesses. It's a quiet, quaint family neighborhood. One gentleman who is new here called me and asked me about this. His question was interesting. He says, what is the value of the old homes on Santa Clara Drive? What will these people do with their property? What a great question. As I pondered it, I realized we were talking about 2 different values here. He wondered about it from a financial standpoint. What will happen as these older homes deteriorate? Will people just push them over and put businesses or townhomes in? What value do these people have? I think I gave him a surprising answer. I told them that if he's looking for things monetarily, it may seem bleak, but there are values besides money. The value here is home, family, community, heritage, and tradition, something that has no price tag. We value it far and above beyond monetary means. Most of the people who own these homes love the older historical homes and love restoring them and keeping the spirit and feel of this town. Kind of seems strange in a day and age when making money is the most important thing. But keeping that small hometown feel is what they all mentioned is crucial for them, which fits perfectly into the real main concern. And that's number 6, preserve the historical district. This really is the most crucial point. The historic district is sacred holy ground of the city. It is what makes this town what it is. The tree-lined streets, the pioneer spirit, the family feel is what, in Kyle's own words, has you decompressed by the time you hit Gates Lane. The main issue most people have is changing this historic district. If this gets rezoned out of residential, then you just open a Pandora's box that will never be able to be shut. Every home on this main road will then be able to get a zone change, push their house over, and put in townhomes or huge businesses. If preserving this town is the most important job of the city planners and the city council, then keeping this zone as shown in the general plan is imperative. This should be the number 1 goal of this city, to preserve this historical district. Honestly, it's easier to make a law once so when people purchase property, they know what they are getting and not changing it over and over to every single person that comes in wanting to change. It will save you, the buyers, and the residents all a lot of grief if people just bought the property as it is zoned and quit trying to change it for their monetary gain and personal interests rather than what is best for this town and those residents who live by this. The hometown feel, the safety, the sense of the community is core of this historic district. I cannot stress enough that protecting this holy ground is your main job here. Now, we want to keep it zoned as it is. We want more residential lots. So who is being more arrogant? Those who buy a lot and want to change it and accuse all of us who stand here pleading to keep what we have? Are we really being arrogant? I think we've been very kind. I think we've tried to state what we can. Who's more arrogant? The buyer that comes in and thinks, I'm going to turn this town, I'm going to change it, I can do what I want. You don't have any control over me. I have property rights. Well, you do, but you bought it knowing exactly what it was zoned. That's not our fault. That's not our responsibility. That's the buyer's responsibility. Regardless of whether zone changes do happen, we are not the bad guys here. Please understand that. We have lived here a long time. And we have worked really hard to preserve and protect and to welcome and love the people that are moving here. You can see why we were told that I'll build what I want. Who's more arrogant in that statement? That was really hurtful. Our own city codes and ordinances pose some good questions and give guidance to this land. Number 17.18.040 on the application submittal requirements for a land use ordinance or zoning change. These were 3 questions that I pulled up. How has the current land use ordinance that is or are the subject of this application become outdated or no longer in the best interest of the city? B, how does the proposed land use ordinance change better serve Santa Clara in promoting and protecting the health, safety, morals, convenience, order, prosperity, or general welfare of the city and its citizens? C, how does the proposed ordinance change fit with the goals, objectives, and policies of Santa Clara's general plan? Our general plan is zoned R110 and RA. This is what the people want. This is the way we want it kept. If you uphold your own laws and general plans once when you write it, you don't have to keep going through these same meetings over and over. The buyer knows what they're getting based on the current plan, and they don't need to request a change. They can look for that property that is properly zoned for their needs already. Section 17.18.090, standards of review by land use. Many other interesting things to consider here. A, is the property use suitable in view of the zoning and development of the adjacent nearby property? B, will the proposed use adversely affect the existing use or suitability of adjacent or nearby property? C, are there substantial reasons why the property cannot or should not be used as currently zoned? That's a good question. D, will the proposed use cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services, including but not limited to streets, schools, water or sewer, police, fire, and protection? E, is the proposed use compatible with the purpose and intent of the general plan? F, will the use be consistent with the purpose and intent of the proposed zoning district? H, does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare and the right to the unrestricted use of property? Also in our city code 17.68.060 with plan development, number B, it says PDR districts may be located where sufficient land and infrastructure exist or are planned for, which will allow for development that meets the standards and requirements of this section. Plan developments should not be proposed on vacant lots lying between other single-family dwellings. Do I need to read that again? That's our code. That's what you guys, the planning people uphold. That's you guys. They should not be proposed on vacant lots lying between other single-family dwellings. In these instances above, again, 3/4 of a mile, in these instances above, according to our own codes and ordinances, the criteria has not been met. This project will forever change the landscape of Santa Clara because it is in the historical district and because the historical district is what sets Santa Clara apart from every other city. Any developer tries to put a project in, this is first and foremost the main concern of our citizens. The small hometown feel, the homes, the trees, the historic aspect, and most important, the people are what makes Santa Clara what it is today. Whatever goes here will have a huge impact and cannot be undone. For that reason, we feel it is crucial we get that right. We have not had anybody that lives next to this development that we've talked to so far in support of this, not one. So it is our request, and the main point that everybody wanted to make sure that you knew is they don't want it. And I hope you'll consider some of our own laws and ordinances as well. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick response from the city's legal counsel. I'm not aware of any legal barrier to the grant of this application. It's a policy question that's before you today. And so none of the legal provisions that I've heard cited just now would be a barrier. Either way, there's nothing that compels a denial in the code. There was a code section that was cited about distance, minimum distance to a residential structure that's referring to another kind of land use. It's called neighborhood commercial. That's not a land use that's being sought. They're coming in under a different conditional use permit. I would expect they would apply for that permit, but it's a different land use entitlement. That requirement that was just cited doesn't apply. Same with provision related to lots. Basically, what the code says is you can't have a subdivided neighborhood, and if you find one vacant lot in that neighborhood, you can't apply to have that be planned development residential. That's what that's saying. In other words, if you've got a neighbor here and a neighbor there, I can't apply to make my lot PDR. That's all that's saying. So that's not a barrier to any action on this application. Again, it's strictly a policy question for the commission to consider.
Thanks for that clarification. We can't hear you. I can't hear you. You got to come back up.
It's not between them.
In the U-shaped memory care building, 10 feet behind that building is our property and our house. Nice old Goobler home. We met Art. He's been, we're really taking pride in fixing it up. To the left of that is Neil, I forget his last name. Terry Moore is up to the right. And I guess it's actually a home that Kyle owns. Is down on this corner here. What is the lane called? Thank you. So really, what we were just saying is that there are 3 properties literally surrounding single home properties surrounding a portion of their plan. So I don't quite understand how you can say it doesn't apply. That's what the law was designed for, to not put something in the middle of 3 residential low density homes. And here you're putting 14 units. I don't even know how many more. Thank you. That's all.
The code is referring to subdivided lots. So again,
It's not applicable.
the way I read the code is you've got a subdivision, you've got 50 lots in a neighborhood. If I own one vacant lot in that neighborhood, I can't apply for a PDR on that lot. That's the way I read the code. And second of all, the code uses the word should, which is not mandatory. So again, my point is not that this application should be granted. My point is, it's not a legal question. This is a policy question for you.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Hi, I'm Melanie Marriott at 4035 Colby Loop in the Hills. But I am reading actually on proxy for who this letter is from. This is from Sue and Randy Yoakum, and they own property on Quail Street. They could not be here. So this is their statement. Our sentiments match all of those that Denise has given. However, Denise Webster. However, we'd like to share our biggest concern. The city has created a general plan for the city with specific zoning to celebrate and sustain the town that is Santa Clara. We believe strongly that if planning and zoning and the town council will consistently and fervently say no to zone changes, people will stop asking. If you know how it is zoned when you purchase, and you trust the city will stick to their general plan, then trust is built between the city and the residents, new and old. Right now, trust is consistently broken, and zone changes are handed out. Case in point, an unreal ration of townhomes and rental properties to include the new ones on the corner of the high school and Lava Flow Drive as you drive into town, those next to the city office, and then the soon-to-be enormous number of rentals on the South Hills by the same developer property manager. We feel that if we could hold true to the vision of the general city plan and vision for this town, specifically holding on to agricultural and historical districts, our city would be better for it. Thank you for your time and service and for considering the long game for us and future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the other room?
Is there anybody in the other? Okay. Why don't you read that while Corey checks the
Okay.
ancillary room?
Haley Kaplan, 1454 Boys Pond Circle. Hello, I would like to state my opposition to the proposed zone change on Gates Lane area for the assisted living. We shouldn't be hearing this again. It has been opposed twice already and there's not enough change in the new proposal. Please keep it residential lots and agricultural. This is what fits here in the beautiful historic district. Please vote no.
Nobody in there? Okay, then it looks like at this point we will close the public hearing. There is one more. Two more. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we also note for the record that Corey Bundy checked in the other room, that none of the other attendees wanted to comment?
I will.
Thank you.
Corey Bundy has checked the overflow room and there are no residents that would like to come make a comment.
Okay, there's just one more online. Randy and Penny Willard. There's not an address stated. I am writing again to say that I am against the zone change and there are many people out there who feel the same. The proposed assisted living facility is way too large and does not fit in this small community. The traffic is already terrible and this will make it even worse. They live on Hamblin Drive.
Any more? Is that it? Oh, I was gonna say going once, but you're just under the wire.
Sorry. I've been typing up everything I wanted to say. My name is Brett Boyce. I live 470 Country Lane, Santa Clara. I have friends that oppose this. I have friends that support this. I have friends on the Planning Commission. You have a tough job. You've been attacked. Your decisions have been attacked. And I just want to say that I appreciate your service. Thank you. Thank you for the hours you've put in. I know it's been said that time has been wasted on the citizens, but we appreciate your time and your effort and your service, and that isn't without thanks. So thank you. Gal, I'm the kind of guy that wishes we could just all come together and agree on something. I hate confrontation. I hate, neighbors and friends that are just so against each other. But I think no matter what happens, somebody's going to be upset. I do support the facility. I've listened to those who oppose, and I think I agree with that. And then I've listened to people that support, and I think I agree with that. So it's a tough decision to make. The fact is, how as hard as it is, development happens. It just happens. Growth happens. Growth truly helps us all. I think if we were to look in Santa Clara and say everything that is a zone change should be denied, many wonderful things that have happened in Santa Clara wouldn't have happened. And so I look at that and I just say, let's just keep an open mind that development happens, that growth does happen. And I think done well, this could be a great thing for the city. And that's all I'd have to say.
Thank you. And with that, I can say going once.
Can I ask a question, Chairman?
Yes.
I don't know if you want to have the applicant, Kyle, I don't know if it was part of the public hearing or close and
I was going to ask him to come up if the commission had any questions.
okay. For him. I don't know if maybe he'd
Unless you
wanna
want to.
add something now or afterwards.
Very well. All right. Then with that, we will close the public hearing and move on to the agenda of general business and discuss the recommendation to city council for the proposed change request. So, council members,
Let's give Kyle
you want, the floor is yours now, Kyle.
Kyle Hafen, applicant. To start, I apologize. I've gotten really good at saying that. My wife has taught me well. But I do apologize for those individuals who felt like I have not made a valiant effort in trying to reach out to them. Certainly, I could have done better, should have done better. I'll commit to being better at doing that. And I will also say that we, as a handful of people indicated and mentioned, we have had a lot of meetings and we have reached out to a lot of people. And we have tried to convey a more true vision or idea of what this facility should look like and will look like. You say the word facility, it equates to big. You say, you look at the square footage as Denise talked about, and you think big. The frontage of those four buildings are very parallel to the buildings that are across the homes that are across in the Sycamores. Yes, they are deeper. Certainly they're deeper buildings, and it is a building. But as you can see in our design elements, we have really tried to make these look like having an architectural design and appeal that is something that resonates with Santa Clara, specifically downtown Santa Clara, the historic district area. Some of these homes are, some of the buildings are no larger than some of the old style plantation homes in the South. And that's, as you see the architectural design elements, that's something we're trying to replicate. We have listened. We have made enormous changes in our plan from a little over 8 acres down to 5.5, moving the project from next to LeGrand Hafen's home and across from the Farron Levitt family, pulling it down into this elevation drop that allows, for example, the Wolf Dog Center that they would most likely be able to see over the back, maybe not down into the field if this passed and we could build what we want to do, then no, but protecting the elevations of people on Santa Clara Drive, putting a 1-story on Santa Clara Drive. There's been a lot of talk about the commercial. Somewhere there was a disconnect. The commercial space, just for note, is no longer even part of this application, and that wasn't an accident. That was something that we've decided, because of the opposition, we'll eliminate it. What you see as a commercial area will be actually part of the staffing the in-house staffing, that's where they will office. We plan to build it in a way that if later on there is a need for a commercial, that it will be easy to convert that and then have that as one of the additional features of not just the historic district of Santa Clara, but for the facility and other patrons as well. We've eliminated the continuation of the buildings to give it again a smaller look and feel. And you can only go so small because there is more rooms. And the recent, and it's not quite a, what is it, Bob? It's a proposed density, a clarification of
Density bonus, is that what you're?
Bonus.
no, not the density bonus that people have asked, why are we here again? Well, in some ways, we're a little bit of the guinea pig because we came with this proposal, and in doing so, the city found out that there's some policies and ordinances that maybe they need to solidify or put down and vote and incorporate them into the documents of the city, because there wasn't an ordinance that indicated the type of density that an assisted living facility had. Those things have been brought up as we've kind of gone through this process. There's been a lot of discussion about the exactness of what the project needs to look like and should look like, the elevations. And again, it's been redefined and fine-tuned to make it more workable for myself as a developer or other developers and the city to understand and have outlined specifically what was there. We inadvertently left some things off of our previous application. That was one of the main reasons why the application wasn't approved. We're grateful that there's an ordinance in place that allows us to not have a small technicality eliminate the option of having this project be approved, that we were able to come back and visit with planning and zoning again. We have listened as well as we can. Denise made some great comments. We've tried to work with the residents. We've tried to work with those who are close. We've listened. We've added turn lanes. We've moved the project over. We've changed the elevations. We've changed the fill of the size of the buildings by breaking them up and separating them, which ironically ends up being a positive thing because of the society and the world we live in right now. Having each of those buildings being able to be quarantined, if you will, and separate themselves off is actually a very positive thing as we move forward. We have added additional landscaping, listened. First we heard remove the parking areas off of Santa Clara Drive, put them down on Benelli. Add the lighting plan, the walkability, how we're going to interact through there. We really have tried to listen and make changes and come to a compromise. And I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Brett. I feel like through this process, regardless of the changes and the options that we've listened to and tried to incorporate into our plan, we're just met with no. And I appreciate that. I understand that. I've said this before. One of my statements for my life and the life of others, I think your best quality can sometimes be your worst. And the thing I love about Santa Clara is we care. Everyone cares. And in moments like these, I wish that maybe we didn't care so much. Then I could get what I wanted. And that's not what this is all about, but there is a reasonable option for a compromise here. And as the applicant, myself, as a developer, we have listened over and over again, aside from just not doing it. There's a lot of codes that were cited. We don't have, aside from the new proposal for Up on the Heights, we don't have the ability for the next stages of life. The demand has been talked about. I don't want to quote the number because I can't remember what it is, but I think it's 2.5 to 1, 3 to 1, something close to that. Baby boomers are looking for places to live, surpassing those of just a standard residential living as ourselves. There's a huge need. That age group is coming to the time where a facility like this will allow them to have that added transition and next stage of life. Anyway, are there any questions that I can answer from the commission?
I just had one question. I know that we've beat everything to basically a pulp, but, and so this probably has been brought up in one of the other meetings. I know that we've addressed it a little bit, but one of the concerns that I heard was on flooding, and that has been mentioned various times. While we were talking, I brought up the flood maps, and it actually looks like, at least on this version, that there is a flood zone going right through the property. Question, I guess, is has all the FEMA LOMAR studies been done to take that out of the floodplains? And
anything more? I'm waiting.
That's it. That's the question. Has all those flood studies been done, and is it out of the floodplain?
Yeah, I will speak as the developer and the applicant. I am not an engineer. I'm certainly not part of the Army Corps of Engineers. But I know that there's ordinances within the city of Santa Clara that you can't build in a floodplain. So if there were any concerns, I'm sure that would have been brought up by city staff. I believe there has been a new LOMAR done. I don't know exactly how recent that was, but certainly if there's issues with floodplain or building without, we won't be able to pull a building permit essentially if there's any issues that haven't been remedied. And whether that's elevating out of the floodplain, a combination of that and additional riprap support, I'm sure will be, guided by city staff and making sure that we're in compliance, certainly.
So can I ask a question to staff? I mean, in your TRC, you would have covered those details and followed through on those details, correct?
Yeah, and maybe call it Corey, but I remember walking this site, a year ago, year and a half, whenever it was. And there was quite a bit of discussion about bringing in fill, and seems like it was like 6 feet in a lot of places. The Benelli Drive would require some significant, armoring, riprap. So there's a lot of things that would have to happen to make this
You
suitable.
referenced those in your review, correct?
To some extent.
Yeah.
We haven't, but I don't know, Corey probably knows more. Jack Taylor's not here tonight. They've dealt with some of those floodplain issues as well. But
yeah, as a staff, we did walk the site. Well, we had the mayor, who's an engineer, very, very educated in flood development. He stated to developers that, yeah, there would have to be some flood work, but this would have never came to planning commission for the first time if there was an issue where that couldn't be remedied. So
okay, that's what
that
I figured,
answers
'cause
your
it has to
question.
go- in my experience, the TRC, that would have screened that out right then and there,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
For the record, I was 98% sure that was going to be your answer.
Anything else?
Is there a light plan and all that stuff? Because it's not in the stuff that's provided to us. There's a somewhat of a landscaping
yeah,
view, but
I'll let Kyle. And, in the ordinance, when this was submitted, there was a lighting plan required, and they apparently have submitted it. In the ordinance that was redrafted or reapproved midway through their project, but it applies to any new application, we've omitted the requirement for a lighting plan at this zone change level. A lighting plan is a very detailed, talks about how many lumens come from every light post, et cetera. It's a very engineered study. that is appropriate at some point, but probably at a very conceptual, when you're doing a zone change, kind of in a conceptual stage. We didn't feel that a lighting plan in this, at this stage would be a requirement. It's a major expense to have an electrical engineer put together a lighting plan, but I believe, as I understand, they've done that.
Correct. Thank you, Bob, for those comments. That again, through this process, we've been able to work with the city and re-identify or maybe fine tune the requirements in the process so that in the future it's more clear. There were elements that we were missing in our first application. Some of those elements are no longer even a requirement, such as the lighting plan, because at this stage it's just uncalled for. We're just looking for the zone change. And then, you know, a comment on the zone change. There was a lot of conversation and talk about, you know, the general plan. Well, as a property owner and being a developer, when we look at a property that's for sale, of course you look at what it's currently zoned. But as a property owner, you also, aside from doing a general plan change, you want to look and see, well, what other options are there? I think it was, I can't remember. There's so many comments, but the comment was made, if Santa Clara never changed anything from residential agricultural, then half of us wouldn't be here. I think I'm one of the ones that hopefully still would, but I'd be living with my mom and dad. That's not that fun at this age. So the general plan does allow for this. It allows it. It does have the mixed use residential overlay. So as a developer, when we go in to look at to purchase a parcel, we don't just look at the current zoning, but we look at the general plan as to what options are available for us. Now we know that we may have to go through a zone change if we want to deviate from what it's currently zoned, but that's still one of the rights that comes with that property. And so in the purchase of this property, we identified it was zoned residential agricultural. I've been here when the floods have come. I wouldn't want to put a home in that specific spot. Not because of flooding, it's busy. They talk about the busyness of it. I wouldn't want to put a home there. I wouldn't want to put a home on Gates Lane and the corner of Santa Clara Drive either. Not now, 15 years ago maybe, but it's busy. So I think it was Councilman Hendrickson that indicated that, these are living documents. They evolve and they progress with the needs of the city. 100 years ago, there's zero nets that you wouldn't even talk about an assisted living facility. There's no need. Now there is.
Hey, Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can I just take a moment? I've really got to run. I'm supposed to be hosting a Zoom meeting right now. I'm 5 minutes late for, and I thought I could start it for him here, and I can't. So let me just. I have thought that this development is incredibly a great development. I look at it, I think that maybe in 10, 20 years, I might be living in something like that, However, the only thing that gives me pause is as Brett Boyce said back there, is he's got friends on both sides and understands both sides very well. And I've got friends that have very eloquently and very kindly given their opinion tonight, and it's tough because I think I sort of disagree with some of their findings, but I appreciate them and honor their opinions. I did. Theron Levitt mentioned that why can't we remove these boxes in I almost interrupted him and say there's half these people in here that would disagree with that. We all disagree on something. And as Mr. Boyce said, there's going to be some people leave here one way or the other, not very happy, unless, well, yeah, there is, regardless. So I'm going to have to leave before the vote. So I apologize for that, but there's a quorum here already. And in a nutshell, I think the project would be very, very beneficial for the community. no, I'm not in the developer's pocket, which most of the people today were very, very kind. If you want a little pointers on how to tick off a commission, accuse them of being crooked and in the developer's pocket. It just really, I'm surprised Mark kept his cool.
It took all I had.
Yeah.
Well, I can sit down if there's no more questions and you can proceed.
So other than the good friends that I have that oppose this, I do have one other, I mean, this gentleman back here, in my mind, probably has the biggest gripe of anybody. And that building going up in my backyard, I would not like that either. And I feel for that as well. But
All right. Thanks, Mark. See ya.
Hey, one thing that was brought up by somebody and you said you'd address it was the survey. You said there was a survey about.
Yes. Yeah, so you were here, I think, the previous meeting. So we took a generic survey. It was a Google survey. We did request that they put their name and their address, but we did not go in person. It's an online survey that was open to general public. Sent it to anyone and everyone. And yes, I could stand up here and I said the same thing in the previous meeting, that the loudest voice is generally the voice that shows up, unfortunately. And it's not just in these meetings, it kind of feels that way in general. So I don't want to be quoted or cited as indicating that this is a bona fide survey. I actually spoke to some of the council members and the mayor himself and asked about the surveys. I've been in meetings where we've had surveys that have been in opposition to something that we're trying to do as developers, and we've been where surveys have been in favor of what we're doing. And I don't necessarily love them because I just don't think they carry much weight. But you know, anybody that I talk to, if they understood the project and the way that it was truly going to be built, that it's not going to look like the one on Dixie Drive. After a conversation, there was, okay, all right, I could maybe live with that. I might not love it, but I could live with that. And so again, trying to answer your question, it was about 200 people, and it was, I think 93% of those said that there was no location specified, just would you approve or disapprove of a assisted living facility in Santa Clara. So very generic, just trying to get a sense, because as a developer, you come in thinking, I've said this, but this was the first time that I've dealt with Santa Clara, aside from Swift Haven, that was 12 years ago, where I'm like, I'm finally going to stand up there and not have to fight. I thought people would love this. And the first meeting was an eye opener. And so I thought maybe we're wrong. Maybe this isn't what Santa Clara wants or needs, or maybe this wouldn't be a good project. So we did that survey, very generic, just to try and see, is this something that people want? You know, we don't talk to everybody. So that's kind of the data on that. Any other questions for me? If so, I'm just right here.
Okay. All right. In case you guys are wondering where I stand, I live up in the Heights, and everybody that I've talked to in the Heights has absolutely no problem with it. They love it. But there's always the not in my backyard. It always happens. In fact, I offered to build a house for somebody at my cost that lived behind me if they'd build a single level. And they told me, no, thank you, in order to try to preserve my view. And they, tough luck me.
It wasn't my son-in-law that built it. He
So,
bought it.
No, it wasn't your son-in-law. Next door to that. the only thing that gives me pause on this is the fact that it is a zone change, and the people that live right next door to it, when they moved in there, they were expecting one thing. So that's the only question I have, like I said, the thing that gives me the pause on this. Other than that, I think it's a tremendous neighbor. I think that there's nothing more small town than taking care of elderly people in a place that I will eventually probably end up sooner rather than later, because my kids are going to throw me in a home. I know it.
My girls have already told me that's the case.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So anyway, Councilman.
well, I mean,
Chairman.
like Marv,
Commissioners.
I've got friends on both sides of it. And I'm like Marv too. You want to make me mad, you start accusing me of improprieties. Don't go there. That's just not appropriate, nor is it necessary. I also have to feel for the people that it's going to be built in your backyard. I mean, that's just a sad reality. And there's all kinds of things that come into effect. I believe it's a good neighbor. I've had experience with these homes, as I've stated before, my entire life. My family's made a very good living developing convalescent homes, a lot different environment than what these are. It is a good use. The tough thing is we as commissioners up here, not councilmen, commissioners, have to listen to the whole community. And like Mark said, I've talked to people on both sides. It's mixed, but the ones opposed are the ones that are going to be proximity to it. The ones that could care less or not. So it's very difficult. So I believe it's a good use. I believe it's the right use. And you did bring back 6 significant changes, in my opinion. And that's why when we had the conversation whether or not to even allow the hearing, it was my opinion that we should. I feel for you folks, I do. But the bottom line is it's a good use for the community. And we're all going to have parents there. The public hearing's shut. So these are the things that we have to think about as commissioners.
So Mark and I sit here right next to each other and we disagree because the 6 changes that you mentioned, I don't feel you supported. I'm not making a decision based on that tonight. We have to make a decision based on a zone change request, not that you need another try. But to me, it's taking it in through the back door and it wasn't supported. And a zone change is a pretty serious thing. And so I am on the other side. I can't support it. But
That's the positive nature of what we're doing,
in
my opinion.
we differ in our opinions, but we have different views. So
Will
and I
there be a
respect Mark.
public hearing prior to the city if this was recommended to move forward to the city council? Would there be a public hearing before the city council for a 3rd time?
Yes.
There would be another.
Well,
no.
Here's what's the procedure. The real public hearing is required is held by the planning commission. So the council is discretionary, but the mayor has allowed it in the previous and would likely allow it. I mean, that's speculation, but in the past, the mayor has allowed the public comment.
Yeah, like Bob said, with public comments, the mayor has allowed if people come and fill out a card prior to the meeting and want to speak on an issue, it's at the mayor's discretion.
Okay. So maybe.
Okay, clear as mud. I have been both times in support of recommending this. I have a handful of notes that disagree with certain things, but also support it. I want to read from the notes from last meeting in my comments. It said, Commissioner Whitehead pointed out that the applicant has already spent a significant amount of time and money on the project, heard recommendations from various quarters, I don't know what that is, and made significant changes based on that feedback. Acting Chair Wilson and Commissioner Hendrickson both agreed. Commissioner Hendrickson stated that Mr. Hafen seems to have listened to the citizens' feedback and has made substantial changes. Commissioner Hendrickson added that the citizens should be heard from to determine if they agree. That's kind of where I left off last time. Is my opinion was, if it's coming back to this point, we kind of debated a little bit on the substantial change. You know what, and it's an opinion. Is there a lot? What constitutes a lot? My opinion was that if Kyle was going to bring it back a third time, that he would be ducks in a row, citizens would be on board, the near citizens would be somewhat under agreement, not 100% opposed like it sounds like they are. So this one's a tough one for me, because I assumed those neighbors that this is directly affecting would be more bought in.
Well, my thoughts are, I'm actually think the care facility is a great idea. However, I don't like the density aspect of it. I think for me, it's a little too crowded. If it was more along the lines of what it would be if it was more of a residential adjustment, then I think I'd be more in favor of it. But don't think a care facility would be a bad neighbor. Like someone said, it's probably the next best thing to a cemetery. Maybe if they put a cemetery next to it, it'd be a little quicker. But I don't agree with the density. The density is my issue. I think it's a little too crowded. I do think I actually liked the commercial aspect of it. I think it looked cool. I thought it could be useful too, but I was sad to see that taken off. But that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. Well, are you guys prepared to make a motion on this or not? Vote? You are? Ready?
I'm ready to hear what you have to say.
What do you think?
Excuse me,
I'm
actually-
done discussing it. Like I said, it's not about the idea of not loving a residential care facility, because I hope that my parents could live, if they were here in this area, that's where I'd want them to be, is right down in that part of Santa Clara that we all love more than any other part of Santa Clara, that hometown feel. But
yeah,
so that's not the debate in mind. There's just other questions. So I'm done with discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to need a recommendation.
Commissioners, just really quickly, quick reminder.
Yes.
So there will be a recommendation on the zone change, and you need to include in the motion something about the density bonus
Mm-hmm.
and also the required minimum parking. So a recommendation on those 2 points as well. They don't need to be separate motions, just you can include that.
What was the parking one called? The parking adjustment or?
To recommend a minimum parking requirement.
Okay.
And that, as you might recall, is that in the parking section, it's not clear on what the parking standard is for an assisted living. So we're looking at other recommendation codes, and 1.3 to 1.5 spaces per unit is a good number, somewhere in there. So when we came up with the 91 spaces needed, that was based on a 1.3. And that applies only to the independent living, because the code is clear on the assisted living memory care. At least it falls under nursing homes again. So it's just, I don't know if I've muddied it up or that helps at all.
Okay. Okay.
I just need to want to make this on the, my wife's opposed. So I don't care that you think anything about that, but she's adamantly opposed, but we've had multiple discussions about it. It's a tough spot to be in, but I think I better be honest about that.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to need a motion from somebody. Unfortunately, no.
Looking for the wording. I made the last one. I'm not gonna make this one.
Because I can't make one either.
Ready? Yeah.
I don't know how to make a motion not recommending. Is that a motion that I don't know how you,
No, what we do is you would make a recommendation to, or you would make a motion to recommend it, and then we would vote yay or nay. That make sense?
Or
Is
you
that
can make a
accurate?
motion to deny if you,
deny.
that's
Okay,
what you're.
and then we can vote on
implying.
that. You could do it either way.
The motion would be, if it's to deny, the motion would be that the planning commission recommend the denial of the zone change request. If it's to recommend the approval, it would be
okay.
So
that
we
way.
have done that, I guess, in the past, and it's moved on.
We have approved it. We haven't did.
Yeah, we,
Not in this
we-
particular one, on
yeah.
another completely different
Correct.
project. We
Correct.
recommend.
Denial.
And for clarification, they have the right as applicants to proceed to the council regardless of whether you,
yeah, no matter what we teach.
what the recommendation was. So.
Okay, I will recommend at this time to deny the proposed zone change
Just a
request.
second, I'm sorry. The language is, I move that we recommend the denial.
Can I just say ditto?
That works.
Sure. I recommend to move to denial. Is that?
I move that we recommend the denial.
I move. I move to recommend the denial
That works. Great, thanks.
of the proposed zone change request that has been before us for the last few hours.
Okay. I have a motion from Curtis
I'll second that.
That,
and a second from Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Nay.
So you got,
Chairman can vote,
I
Mark,
don't vote. Yep,
He didn't vote.
I didn't vote.
but you could if you want to, under the ordinance, you're
He's the
well.
tiebreaker.
Only as a tiebreaker,
He's a
right?
tiebreaker.
No,
Oh, yeah.
not as a tiebreaker. It just says all members can vote.
Chairman votes.
It's not, the mayor, in the council, the mayor is a tiebreaker, but in the planning commission, the ordinance says that all members are entitled to vote on matters.
I'm going to abstain then.
Okay.
So that's, did you guys count that? That's 3 to deny and 1 for.
You mean 3 approve the motion to deny,
Yes.
1 denies the motion to deny.
Yes.
Dissent. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the proper word would be.
Did we get close enough?
I think it was great.
Okay. Okay. And with that, we'll move on to the final discussion item, which is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on February 11th, 2021.
Actually, I had a discussion item.
You do.
Do you? Okay.
I do. You were all sent a email for the spring conference.
Oh,
Yeah, you told me
And-
the city and town. Yeah.
Something that's been brought to our attention since then is Senate Bill or House Bill 409 requires all planning commission members to have 4 hours of continuing education. So that flyer that we asked you to sign up and go to continuing education is now mandatory if you want to remain a planning commission member.
Is that per year or what's the 4 hours per
4 hours a year.
a
4
year?
hours a year.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And our
So
next-
we're lucky that it came to St. George this year.
And it's here in St. George and it's virtual. A lot of it's virtual. So we go back to that email, or if you want, I can have Selena send it again.
Maybe just send it out one more time so they've all got it.
Let Selena know that you're going to sign up.
Okay.
And
remind me of the dates. Do you have it in front of you or you don't?
I don't
Okay.
have it right in front of me,
Okay.
but I believe it's in April.
Of the minutes? No. I saw it earlier, but where was it?
I've seen it, but where have I seen it?
Oh, I see it. I got it.
Where's it at?
Push the file.
April 21st,
Bottom right here.
23rd.
And it's at the bottom of that. So it's Wednesday or April 21st through April 23rd.
Correct.
6:30 a.m. it begins. Oh, that's yoga with vinyasa?
So there's an in-person option or virtual is what I'm seeing.
Virtual
In person or virtual.
April 21st and 20, or April 22nd really is when.
Okay. And is there a sign up link on our email?
There was on that email that was sent, I
I
believe.
think there was,
if I
right?
remember, yeah.
We'll,
All right.
we'll send it out again. Just wanted
Good
to
idea.
make you all aware.
All right. Thanks for,
So we need to let you know.
Yes, the city has to track the hours, so you have to let us know.
okay.
So you just want to, so just tell you right now, just sign me up.
Yeah, me also, please.
Can we just count these hours?
So is
This is almost 4.
in person or virtual?
In person. I can't do the virtual. I sit in 2 dang many Zoom meetings as it is.
Yeah.
So you can sign me up too, please.
I'm going to go in person.
Could somebody send me that email?
I'll go in person.
Oh, so I'd like to.
In person.
And part of it or something. That's interesting. 4 hours of CE.
22nd, 23rd.
Not in person.
Virtual. Person, please. There is a test for those that don't show up in person.
Oh, there is?
Written test, yeah.
So I'm putting that on my calendar right now. First. Oh, I've already got it on there.
I thought I had, but I didn't.
Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday.
Okay.
Maybe I'll go in person.
All right, then. Let's move on and finish this up with our acceptance of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I
Okay.
second that motion.
Got a motion from,
Shelley,
I wanted to call you Kelly for some reason. Sorry, Shelley. I'm really sorry.
that's okay.
Got a motion from Shelley and a second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And with that, we will close this session of the Planning Commission for Thursday, March 18th, 2021.
So it's out at 2:00. The whole thing.